Welcome everybody. We do this presentations for free, but we cannot guarantee that you will get registered on the strength of our advice. The registration is on the strength of your application, how well you've prepared your application form, and therefore we have to put the disclaimer in. So please take note of that. And okay, Chris, over to you.
Okay, I'm just going to put the video or the stop video that we can make sure that everybody gets enough bandwidth. So just make sure that all the mics are muted. But good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Maynard. I'm a professional technician, technologist, honorary fellow of IPET, and of a member of SAT, which is Society of Asphalt Technology, and also a member of SAIC, which is South African Institute of Civil Engineers. I'm also an ECSA moderator, assessor, interviewer, and this I do for IPET, the Institute of Professional Engineering Technologists. There's the website, it's www.ipet.org.za. Look at the website, and then you can also look at the registration and the different grades of registration. Okay, next slide, Johan.
Chris, can we just get a thumbs up from everybody that they can hear you clearly, please? Or from one or two people. Rod, can you say whether you... Okay, and then I can proceed.
Okay,
before we go, it's a bit soft on my side, Chris, but it looks like everybody's happy.
Okay. All right, I'll talk a bit louder there.
Please.
Okay. All right, this is toolbox number 15. I didn't say it. It's a common mistakes in application form for engineering technologists. Okay, in the introduction today, I'm discussing the common mistakes I've seen on the registration application form for technologists. But it's not just based for technologists. It seems to be the same general for technicians and for professional engineers that want to register. Okay, but we'll be basically talking just about technologists, but you can also use this for the other two. Okay, the forms are, you have to have a referees form, form B3, the TER form B2, 1 TER or TEO form B2.1 TEO forms, and the training experience summary form B2.2 TES, and the engineering report form B2.3 ER. These are some of the mistakes that people make. Now, the mistake we're going to talk about the referee. Now, what happens is applicants sometimes they must ensure the following: referees registration status at ECSA if it is active. So please go on the website, then you can see if they are still active. Then the referees are registered in the category as stated at ECSA PR Eng for professional engineer, PR Tech Eng, that is a professional technician, technologist, and then PR Techni Eng is for the technician. So make sure that they are registered in that categories that you need. Next.
Chris, can I come in here? To check whether the referee is registered, you go to the ECSA website. There's a space where it says, if you put in ECSA on Google, you will get ECSA, and there's one space that says who is registered. Click on there, and it will give you the option to put the name in and see if the person is registered.
Okay. Now, another problem we get is a common mistakes of the TER is your training and experience report, and then the TEO is your training experience where you get you haven't got a degree or that. Now, the applicant must ensure the correct form is completed. Now, what I mean by that is your TER is your training and engineering report to be completed by applicants with the applicable benchmark qualification. What we mean by benchmark qualification is a person who has the BTech advanced certificate or your BEng Tech. Now, advanced certificate and BEng Tech are new degrees and certificates that have come in on the new system. BTech has been starting to be phased out, but it's still valid. Remember that. So TER is your training and engineering outline. Now, what we mean by that is somebody who has learned is completed by applicants who do not have the required minimum benchmark qualifications as a pop up top, as I discussed there, your BTech, your advanced certificate, and your BEng Tech qualification, but has the required experience coupled with their own qualifications. So that can be a national diploma, or it can be your certificate in civil engineering, or any of those. You can even have a T1 and a T2 or N6. But you must look on the forms to see if you've got that criteria of the years of experience to the degree of experience. Now, the applicant should complete their summary of experience only after completing their TER or the TEO. I do get the guys the guys and ladies, applicants, that they actually fill in the experience summary and then they want to do the TER or the TEO, which does not work. You pick it up. Next slide.
Chris, what about overseas qualifications or qualifications from other African countries?
Okay, that happens when they got overseas qualifications. They must submit it to ECSA to be accredited, and there they will tell you if you can apply for a technician, or you apply for a technologist, or for an engineer. So that will count there. So you must first do that before you even think about filling in your form. So you have to get your qualification accredited. But if you fall in the categories of what we've got, our accords, the Washington Accord, the Dublin Accord, and there's also, which one is the other one, Johan? I can't remember.
The Sydney Accord,
the Sydney Accord, that's it. Yes, so those are the three where we've got an understanding that qualifications from any of those institutions, you submit it and you can apply to be registered in the field there. Okay, and it's a special form that you fill in, you will find it there. Okay, common mistakes in the summary of training and experience still. The summary of training and experience is an important document, but many applicants tend to overlook it. Now, your summary of training experience is to be completed only after the TER or the TEO is completed. Now, I find a lot of the people, they put in years where it says you ensure each period is stated in weeks. Now, that's where you get a problem also. At the bottom of your total, all your periods that are stated in years must be stated in years and months. So you must calculate your weeks that you've done, you add them all up, and you convert it to years and months. Autogram is only to indicate your position in the organization and technical persons above and under you. Do not include the cleaners and tea persons and the cleaning lady and the gardener and that. They are not technical people. Even if you think they are not. So make sure that you got that right in your organogram. That is usually in your TER and the TEO, your organogram. So don't overlook your organogram, because that can give you a lot of problems later too. Next slide, Johan. If you look here, if I look at this there, this is the latest form that has been updated the 14th of the 2nd and in 2022. So it's form B2.1 TER. If you look below there, it says this form must be used for applicants who have completed and are submitting a report for each phase of training and work experience from the time of meeting the education requirements to the application for registration. Now, that is where I said your BTech, your BEng Tech, and then your advanced certificate. So please consult the information sheet, now sheet B2, before completing this report. People forget to read that. Now you'll see further down, did you undertake under a commitment and undertaking CU? Now, that is somebody that is who is a mentor, who is registered, and they committed. And they will have a number, but it's not required. So that if you have it, it will help also not to make you this. It will show that you actually went under a period for that. Next slide, Johan. Now, if you look at that previous one, and you look at this one, has also been updated on February 2022. It's form B2.1 TEO. Now, the sentence below, this form must be used for an applicant who has at least 10 years training and experience after completing education requirement and reports a total duration of at least 3 years at a degree of engineering responsibility E, performing in detail TER format. For the remaining periods, groups of related periods, the report can be in this TEO format. Consult the information sheet. This is more for the applicants who do not have the required education document. So there is an alternative route. This falls under the alternative route, that you can do this. Because, for instance, if you've got your national diploma, that's usually 8 years of working at the level of a broadly defined engineering activity with 3 years of engineering responsibility of E, the degree of engineering responsibility E. So that is in your RO2, STA, PT, PEPTPN. There in Annexure A will give you all the requirements for the various education qualifications you have. Okay, next slide, Johan. Okay, this is the form people seem to first fill in, then they want to go back. You fill this form B2.2 TES. That's your training and experience summary. This is the last form you fill in. If you look there, from to, and you work your weeks. And you write your responsibility, degree of responsibility is A to E. Details of that degree of responsibility you get in RO2, STA, PE, PT, PN. There is a table with questions, and you go through that to see at what level or degree of responsibility you were working at that time. Next slide. Okay, common mistakes. Now we're coming to one of the most critical documents. This is your engineering report. This is your CV on one of your projects. There are many mistakes made when completing the engineering report. Applicant tends to overextend the words allowed for the headings under the name of applicant on the first page of the form B2.3 ER. Now, engineering brief and objective, not more than 30 words. The applicants tend to use 100 and 200 words. What is your brief? What is objective? If you're going to design a stormwater, you say designing of stormwater. You don't tell us what pipe size it is and what network it is. That you go put out there. You say designing of stormwater. If you're doing a road design, you say realigning of the stone, horizontal alignment of the road. Or you're going to do the complete design of the road inclusive of layer works. I haven't gone over 30 words just writing like that. Now, environment. Now, that is basically is a laboratory or theory or etc., but not more than 15 words. You work for a contractor and you're building a road. Or you work in a laboratory and you were doing investigation on certain material. You write it, it's 15 words. Now, short summary. You state the engineering problems, solutions in not more than 30 words. You design, for instance, you're designing a road from scratch. So you say you're designing a road that is on virgin ground. That's it. Or you say in a green belt, redesigning a road in a green belt. You explain. That's short and sweet. Everybody knows what you're saying. Next slide, John. If you see that, this is a copy of that. It's in your latest format. But you see there, which I've highlighted, engineering brief and objectives. You have to design a road in a new area for urban or national road. Environment, what it was, you say it's environment in the civil engineering industry and you were a contractor or you were a consultant. Your engineering problem solutions. You say you designed the road, you found the material was it was not up to standard and you were using another technique. They're just short, sweet, nothing further than that. Next one. Okay, now we're still carrying on with the engineering report. Also, another thing what the applicants do. Applicants state multiple periods under the heading cross-reference to the B2TR or the B2TEO. Now, I'm going to give you advice. It's advisable to use one outcome one period for outcome one. Don't use many as what the people are doing. They're doing 3 and 4. This causes confusion for the assessor to assess the application. What then happens, you get called in and you do an experience appraisal interview to find out what were you saying, really. Now, multiple period references for the outcomes the applicant tends to make, and this is one of the critical things, makes a general statement, but does not show or take ownership of the statement. So if you're using different periods, it's very difficult for you to say what was the problem, so you make a general statement. If you were designing roads for a long period, you say, I designed the roads for period 1, 2, and 3. You write there 1, 2, and 3. You say, I designed the roads from this period, and it is on normal ground, on virgin ground. That's what you're saying. But what are you telling us? You didn't say you were designing it in technical terms. What was your problem in the designing of the roads? What did you encounter? Because not all the roads, if you're doing 3 of them, are the same properties. Next slide. Yeah, it shows you. There, I'm just showing you the cross references. That column is the B2.1 TER or B2.1 TEO. So that is there, you use one period. Okay. Next slide, Johan. Okay, applicants also do not discuss how they investigate an engineering problem. Now, what I mean by investigate is, you got a problem, you have to design a road, or you have to put in a pipeline in the ground. You're designing a water pipeline. What information do you have to get to make sure that you can design it correctly? That's what we need to know. Now, investigate, you collect the information. What information were you collecting? Applicants do not discuss how they collect or organize or evaluate all 3 requirements for the information. What they do is that in outcome 1, 2, and 3, they collected the information, but there is no way that it's been identified. What did you do with that information? You say, yes, I collected the survey did for me a tacky survey. And that's it. And you don't tell me why you collected it. What did you use it for? What was its purpose? You haven't discussed. That's what many applicants do that. Now, also applicants do not discuss their assumptions for the analyzing of the results of the information that you've collected. So you make an assumption, you say, I'm going to put it here and there. I'm going to put the route this way, according to what it looks like. But that is an assumption, and that's what you analyze. Now, when we come to the other part, it says applicants do not discuss various design options and do not explain why they decided on a particular design. Many times you take your design, and if you can do a design first time spot on, then you must be exceptional. Over all the years, I look at the design, I decide on a design, but then I start tweaking it. What I mean by tweaking, I look at, what if I change this? Would it make it better, the design, or would I be worse off? And why do I want it better? Sometimes I might need it more expensive, but there are reasons why I'm doing, or it could be ease of construction. These are the things that you take into consideration with your design. Also, applicants do not discuss detailed specification for design documentation. If you're doing a design and you do it on a drawing, you write usually On your right-hand side up top there, there's specifications, what you require, and you can also write the certain specifications in your contract document. Applicants don't discuss that. Also, applicants do not state what BTEC theory they apply in their area of practice. So if you're doing roads, you've learned about layer works, you've learned about your asphalt technology. What did you use there to apply in your area of practice to do your design? That's what you have to understand. A lot of them do not do that. Next slide. Okay, now I'm looking at outcome 1. It says, if you look at define, investigate, analyze broadly defined engineering problems. Now state, when we say define, you say, what was the problem? And how can it be solved? Then state how you performed or contribute to investigation. Investigation is collecting information. Once you've collected the information, you can make your assumption, which is 1.3 of the engineering problem, and you can conceptualize it. And you must justify your assumptions because it's based on your information that you collected. It's not a design. It's like a preliminary design. You make assumptions, and that's it. Next slide. Now we're coming to design and develop. Between outcome 1 and 2, there's always a bit of a mix-up. Now describe how you designed or developed solutions to a broadly defined engineering problem. So you say you collected the information, and this is how I use this following information with my knowledge to come to what 2.2. Yeah, you design alternative solutions or approaches. So it's more than one design. And why did you choose the other design above all the others? You have to state why. Then state your part in drawing up detailed specification requirements and design documentation for implementation to the satisfaction of the client. So here you do your contract specifications, and your drawing specifications gets put on. Then you go to your client and say, are you happy with the specifications I'm going to use? You'll say yes or no. Okay, next slide. Now comprehend and apply knowledge. Now, if you look at 3.1, state what engineering principles, practices, and technologies, including application of BTEC theory, you apply in your area of practice. So what you learned in your theory and BTEC, and what you've learned through practical, and your knowledge, you combine the two, and this is it you discuss. And you also, another thing, 3.2, people make the big mistake. If you read there, your practice area to underpin teamwork. Now, it doesn't mean you don't work. A lot of people, engineers think, or technologists or technicians think they work on their own, but they don't realize they're working with other people also. Other fields, if you're doing a shopping center and you're doing the earthworks, you will be working with the structural engineer. You will be working with the electrical engineer. You will be working with the fire engineer. You'll be working with the mechanical engineer. All these people are working together to become one goal, to make the job, to finish the job successfully and make it safe. And that's where you come in. You must discuss that, how you work with the different fields that are working with you. Okay, next slide, Johan. Okay, now this is a common thing with structural engineering technologists. Applicants, especially the structural engineering technologists, forget to discuss interaction with other disciplines. Now, what I mean by interaction, as what I discussed above just a few seconds back, is you interact with the other disciplines to make a success of the project. Now, applicants need to discuss how they manage themselves Everybody discusses nicely how they manage people and projects and all the resources, but they don't tell you how they manage themselves. Now, what I mean by managing yourselves, how do you know what you're doing, when you're doing it? And that's the hint. I'm not giving you the answer. You must think it for yourself. And what tools you are using to ensure you can manage yourself at the work and in private. Okay. Applicants have difficulty in discussing the ability to establish and maintain a professional and business relationship. Usually it's the consultants with the contractors or the contractors with the consultants. How do you do that? You've got your contract document. You've got your GCC. You've got your various contract documents that you use to keep a professional business relationship. Now, applicants who have only worked in design office seem not be able to discuss site instructions to various stakeholders. Now, if you have never written a site instruction out, you talk to one of the people in your office or who has written quite regularly site instructions, you read through that, you look at the requirements, and you will be able to discuss. Even if you have not written, you should be able to understand what is the purpose of a site instruction and why we're doing that, and various aspects that it can hold in. Okay, next slide, Johan.
Chris, I see there's a hand up from Daniel, Daniel Mbata.
We'll take the questions after.
I just wanted to make sure whether he hasn't got any other problem.
Yeah.
But he's still muted. So in any case, we'll take the questions afterwards.
That's correct, yes. Okay, there I'm looking at outcome 4. You see there, state how you manage yourself. People forget that. State your role in planning and organizing. And then your knowledge of the conditions and operations and ability, as I said there. So please look at these and make sure. These are common mistakes that the people are doing in their applications. Next slide, Johan. And now communicate clearly. Now indicate your ability to issue clear instructions to stakeholders using appropriate language and communication skills. These are the things that we have to understand. It can be a site instruction, it can be in the form on a site, or it can be through a correspondence, or it can be through emails. So please, you must be able to understand what that is. Clear instructions to stakeholders. Okay, next slide, Johan. Okay, applicants have difficulty in identifying affected parties and interaction between technical, social, cultural, and environmental considerations. I find this quite regularly. They might be able to talk about the technical, but social, cultural, and environmental considerations, they don't tell you how that is affecting them. Now, wherever you're working, there is structures. If you do not know, you talk to somebody who has worked on site or even has worked in the office with social and cultural and environmental considerations they've taken into with their designs. Talk to them. They will explain everything to you. Applicants have this difficulty also to discuss a negative effect of construction on the environment and how to limit the negative effect to the environment. Everybody talks about dust control. Yes, it does happen, but there are also other effects that we do have. Like we'll use the common one, dust control. How do you contain the dust? You either wet it with a water cart, or you use a dust suppressor chemical that you do get. But you have to also make sure that it does not affect the environment, the chemical. Okay. Also, the applicants tend not to state legal and regulatory requirements encountered in the engineering activity. Everybody can talk about the Health and Safety Act, but it's not the only thing that we've got there. You must be able to say of certain acts, because you've taken into consideration in your design or were you working on site. You don't need to name the act like, say, the NEMA Act. You can say the acronym, and you can say what it stands for. Also the Vula Act, all that you can state it, but you don't have to say it's an act written in 2004 and it's number that. No, you must understand what it is for and why we're using that. Also, applicants use many technical terms and acronyms and cannot explain or discuss their meaning briefly. I've picked this up a lot. They cannot say what is the purpose. It sounds very nice, but when you get asked, explain, we find out there's a problem. Next slide. Okay, now you see in outcome 6. It's the social, cultural, and environmental considerations that the applicants have a problem with, and also the negative effects of engineering activities. How to mitigate that. What it means is, how did you solve it? How did you limit it? If you've got noisy machines, what did you do to bring the noise volume down? That falls under broadly defined engineering activity. Please don't tell me, now you had water sewage running out and then you just excavated a trench. That is not an engineering activity. You must think nicely and look at your projects that you are running. Okay, and you're working on. Next slide, Johan.
I'll be there in a few minutes.
Okay. Okay, meet all legal and regulatory requirements. Everybody talks about the OSH Act, but what about all the other acts and regulations you have to work under? It's not just the OSH Act that we work in. So please look at that, and then you will understand. It'll give you a bit of a hint. You can read at the different documents. If you do not know, talk to your colleagues. They will tell you. The experienced colleagues will tell you what is more applicable, what is not applicable. Go through the health and safety file to see what is applicable there, and also pick up the certain acts that you need to know. Next slide. Johan. Johan, next slide. Okay, now under outcome 9, this is one of the biggest problems the applicants have. Applicants tend to have difficulty in discussing the application of the technologies and the interrelationship with other disciplines and technologists. Now, outcome 9 is where you have made a decision with all these factors that you've taken into account. Now, outcome 10 have difficulty in explaining how they make decisions for their design. So yeah, you take ownership and you give reasons why did you take that design based on outcome 9. So if you look at it, 9 and 10 is interlinked with each other. Next slide, Johan. So you'll see there within the application of your technologies and interrelationships to other disciplines and technologists, and state what judgment you exercised in arriving at your conclusion. You also state what factors you took into consideration, bearing in mind risk, consequences, and technologies applicable and affected parties. Now, 9.2 is basically risk management that you take into consideration in your design. Next slide, Johan. 10. Outcome 10 is discharging your responsibilities. Now you are making a decision and you're taking taking ownership of your decision. Also, 10.2, the applicants have a battle to seek advice from a responsible authority on matters outside your area of competency. So please make sure that you understand that and state what academic knowledge, at least BTech level, combined with past experience you use to formulate your decision. So yeah, you're taking ownership of your decision that you've done under outcome 9. Next slide, Johan. Okay, now we're coming under general common mistakes. Applicants do not read the ECSA documents as required to complete the application form. This is common. Please read those documents. They're not there for show. They're there to guide you to make sure that you do it correct. Another thing, spelling, grammar, incorrect use of technical terms. If you do not know what that technical term means, do not put it in because you will be asked about it. Now, another thing, applicants in managerial positions tend to write their applications as a directive. Do not do that. Write it as if you are applying for a job, using that knowledge of what you've got. In the interview, the applicants must not argue with the interviewers. We do tend to get that. Also, applicants must prepare for the interview without looking at the reports. So please, when you get your interview date, prepare and prepare and prepare. It is very bad if we have to tell the applicant, why are you looking at your report and reading of your report? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for that you must understand what you've written down there and you can explain to us without looking at your report. Next slide, Johan. Okay, in summary, I know it was a bit long, but today we briefly discussed the common mistakes that applicants make that cause them to be deferred from becoming registered as a professional engineering technologist, technician, or engineers. Another thing, please, guys and ladies, everybody, applicants must take their time completing their application forms. I always say it's not less than 50 hours when you're completing your form correctly. Next slide. Now, acknowledgement is that I'm just saying that it's based on engineering, the Engineering Council of South Africa ECSA documents. It's the application form. Is a registration as a professional engineering technologist, paper-based new registration system, then RO2 STA PE PTPN, revision 2, 18 May 2022, and also RO8 PT, which is revision 2, 22 May 2018. They haven't updated, but please note RO2 and RO8 interlinked with each other. They complement each other, those two documents. So please download them and read them together in there. Next slide. And now we've come to the end of it. Thank you for listening, and any questions we will go through. But you can also go to the previous presentations. You can go to http://professionalcpd.co.za. You register thereon and you log in. Registration is for free. There's other courses there that are free. Some courses are free, some you have to pay for, but they're all CPD accredited. And then all my talks are there on that website there too. Okay, next slide, Johan.
Chris,
you can go over here. You can take over here, Johan.
Chris, I've got to change over for load shedding. Will you please take the questions? And I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll stop sharing and leave it to you and for you guys for, as I said, for about 5 minutes. Thanks.
Okay. All right. I see Jean Daniel Mabatu, you can come in with your question.
Hi, Chris.
Yes, evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, and yourself? And
I'm well, thank you. I think I did send you a chat, I think 2-3 days ago.
Yes.
You responded, but it was not clear. Is on the outcome 3. It states the BTech theory and all that. And I asked you The engineering report that I'm busy on, I did the project in 2015 to 2017. And at that time, I was not yet on the BTech level. I completed my national diploma yet. So when I have to put this under the engineering report, that's where I was a bit confused to say, is it allowed to
Yes, if you're working on the level.
That,
yes, if you're working at the level of a broadly defined engineering activity, you can do that.
So what BTech theory are you going to
It depends on what you
submit?
studied for. What subject did you study and what the project is? You can use that BTech theory, because what happens is you might have learned that before, that's your experience. Then you do you apply your BTech theory with that.
Oh, okay.
You understand what I'm saying now?
Yes, I see. So I might have the experience way before I completed my BTech. So
yes.
Right now, as I'm completing, as I'm busy with the engineering report, I can always apply the theory that I've learned.
Yes,
during my
and you can say that I applied the experience, but I learned the theory afterwards, and I see I was still within that level, which I'm using continuously. You understand what I'm saying there? That you can do.
Yeah, it's clear now. Thank you so much.
All right, it's a pleasure. You choose. You use a part of it, like you say you were designing temporary works. That's it.
Yes.
You had to design a temporary bridge that had to accommodate all the traffic, and you design and you discuss that. That falls under temporary works, that falls under your design. So that you need to only discuss that.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking that it's on the title here, the area of employment date undertaken, I mean the engineering brief and objective. So should I mention the full project, the whole
yes, you
project?
can say it was a construction of a road of say 50 million rand. You had to do the construct, but you're going to only discuss the temporary works that you had to design was a temporary bridge. That is what you're designing and falls under temporary works.
And because the budget here was about 140 million. So that was for the whole project.
You say the whole budget was 140, but your responsibility, irrespective of the budget, was to design that temporary bridge or your temporary works. That's what it falls under.
Okay, and under the TR, I can mention the whole projects.
Yes, you can mention all your duties and everything that is there.
Yes.
Your TR, you mention duties, you show where you fall in your organogram, and you state your duties and you state as what they require, you fill that in. But you say my responsibility was mainly for the design of the temporary bridge, although you were doing other functions there too that you can mention, but you're only going to concentrate on your temporary bridge, temporary works.
Okay, so on the engineering report is only the design that I did.
Yes, the design and whatever you carry on with the project there. But that was a problem, to design a temporary bridge so that the people can use it while you were working on the existing bridge, for instance. I don't know what the project was, but you understand what I'm saying now.
Yeah, I do. Thanks a lot.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Bye.
Okay, the next person is Debogo. You can come in.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Yes. I just want to ask here. I hold national diploma in civil engineering, and I just wanted you to clarify between these two forms, the TER and the TEO. I haven't done my BTech yet, but I've got a 10 years experience. So does that mean that I'm going to only fill in the TEO instead of the TER.
Okay, you're only going to fill in the TEO.
Okay.
You don't fill in the TER because that's the difference between the two. The TER is where you've got your the benchmark qualification. Now you haven't got you, so you'll be doing the national diploma route, which we'll call the alternative route, where you will be filling in that form to say that your experience. And you must remember, I think it is 8 years of experience at the level of a technologist, of a broadly defined engineering activity, with 3 years at the responsible degree of responsibility of E, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's a pleasure. What is it, Manish? See, Jason, you can come in.
Afternoon, Chris.
Afternoon.
Yeah, I wanted to ask with regards to outcome 2. I'm having a BTech in structures, and I'm employed on the public sector, in public works to be specific.
Okay.
So there are projects that most of them we outsource to consultants. However,
Okay.
there are also projects that we do, or before the consultant will go and do the assessments. And then based on the assessment, we write reports, we give to our clients for them to be able to create a sort of a project or budget for those things. So I wanted, in terms of where I'm standing, because not everything that we do design, but we know the processes of how should we go about it. I'll cite an example. The one that I used to write my reports, it's almost complete. It's there are 3 buildings, which is a double-story, it's a school. They are linked with a concrete pedestrian bridges. However, they've collapsed, or they've shown a sign of deflection or settlement. So I went and did the assessment there, and measured the distance of the concrete, because it was done by a concrete. So I also cited that there are 2 options that one can use. Is either we use the very same concrete. Our limitation would be the span between the buildings. And also we can do it using the steel a frame for those 2, for the links. So I just want to find out from the part of the outcome 2, that how should I go about it in terms of my standing. It's not like a physical whereby I design from A to Z, but I did calculations on my reports to certain that, okay, this project, it needs to be done during school holidays because the school it's functional. So I chose the steel part of it because of looking at the time, that if I use the concrete to say we go for concrete, it will take time. It might be delayed to when the school opens, the project would not be completed.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to you. All right, you said you did a preliminary design.
Yes.
In your report, that's fine. Now you give it to, outsource it to a consultant to give their opinion and their design.
Yes.
They come to you and they give their design. Do you use a tick box there, you know, a form, and you
They
just
conform.
Yes, but
Yeah, they conform.
Yes, but you know, the conform form that you just tick off and say, okay, no, it's fine. Or do you go and look at the calculations and you see if it is correct, and then you come up maybe with a different option? You do that, or don't you do that?
I do.
Now that
Because
is
also
it falls under your design. Although you're checking their work, you might look at their work and they come up with a concept and you say, They're making a lot of money here. They're trying to get you to pay more because they want their fees up. Then you start minimizing the fees in the sense you start playing with the factor, as I call it. What if I change this? Would it make it better or would it make it worse? That falls in designing also, because you're doing a process. You're going through a process. You're looking at it. You're playing around and you say to the consultant, okay, I've looked at these various other options. This is what you're going to discuss in your report. You only choose 2 or 3, you choose a total of 3 options. Their option and your 2 options, and you say, yes, their option is fine, or their option is not fine. We'll go for this option. Why? That is designing. So please don't think you have to go to consultants to go and do the work.
No, thanks. Because I thought that at least if you're not in consultants, then yeah, it's something else.
That is a myth.
But in other words, I think that also to review somebody's work, you need to have the principle in your hand to say, okay, if I'm checking someone's work, where do I start? What loading have they used? What consideration would they use in terms of, like, for instance, the project that I'm talking about? It's in one, it's in Secunda, the other one it's in Witbank. I gave the specification. They opted for what we call it, concrete, and I saw that it's a bit high in terms of money and the time as well. And then also they opted for steel. Then I said, okay, your steel, it needs to be galvanized because of the condition of where this project is. So they say, no, they agreed, but in terms of theirs, they omitted such things. So yeah, the moment you know where to start, basically, I think it's, yeah, you're correct. It's the same as if you are reviewing somebody, you're designing, basically.
Because you asked for information, they have to give you the information so that you can complete the
compare,
design check and compare.
Okay.
So
in terms of
certain issues, you say yes. If they've given you this information, you look at your foundations. You have to look why you're looking at the foundation. What are the factors you need? These are the things you discuss. So don't think you have to go into consultants. You've been
so
there in that offer in a government department, what it sounds like it. So you're reviewing their work of the consultants, not actually reviewing to being a policeman or a teacher like that, but you're reviewing it to see,
following the
is
codes,
it viable, yes or no? Are they overcharging you, yes or no? Because there's consultants that will make a slab thicker, or they will put in more steel than what is required, and they can't tell you why. But if they put in more, then they get a higher fee. It becomes more expensive, then it's a higher fee. So you look at their work and say, okay, I agree or I don't agree, let's change it this way. And you go around with your designs. So you're still doing designing.
All right.
Does it make sense to you now?
No, it's fine. I get it.
Okay.
And then,
yeah.
So I also have another one. Though it's not related to me, but like we say, how do we interact with the others? We normally, I think I raise this thing to Johan, whereby we have projects in rural settlement or rural areas whereby we hardly have water or municipal line, or even when we seek boreholes, we find that there is none. And then the school needs to be built there. The next thing, the consultants in terms of your electrical, they will say there's a requirement of this much of water that is required to be in place for fire. And then at the end of the day, we say, look, we in the area, we don't have water. How are we going to? They say, no, the guide, it says that. Then I wanted to ask, is there any, or is this a cut into stone whereby we can say, the guides for Science 10400 Part T, it's only stipulating that, okay, is it water that it's required only? We don't have other means besides the water and those fire extinguishers now.
Okay, what I'm saying is, and I'm going to say this and that everybody can understand. When we're doing when we are technologists or even as engineers, we use the guidelines as a guide.
Yes.
You understand? It's a guide. But if you're changing it and you're coming up with an innovative idea of something else, like you say, you've got a limited amount of water. What is stopping you from changing that and using something else to control a fire? You understand what I'm saying? It's not cast in stone. Any guideline we've got, we go out of the guidelines, we think out of the box to solve a situation. Because a guideline is not codified like a law, like in another countries, if you do this, you will get so many years in jail. That's it. End of story. That's your sentence. It's not codified. Guidelines are there as guidelines to see, to stop the illegal practice of people that are saying, oh yes, they can't get water, so we'll build a school and that's it. And they put the lives of the students in danger because they didn't think further. So that's what we use, the guidelines. So you can always think innovative ways of getting water there or using another method to control fire. That's where you interactive with the fire engineers, you interactive with people with different products. So does that make you understand what I'm saying now?
No, thanks. At least I think you have answered that it's not cut into stone, this thing.
No.
We can have,
remember, we are, when we're doing engineering and the people don't understand this, we are actually scientists. We're solving problems to make the human life much easier. Not more difficult, much easier, and uplifting the quality of the people in the areas. That's what we do.
Is that the challenge you may find that when it comes to submission at the municipality, the fire engineers, they're not going to approve any if there is no water there. That's the challenge mostly that we
but you know what? There's ways and means of going over that. What I'm saying, think innovatively. If you go and read about it, look at other people that have the same problem. How did they solve it? Not in South Africa alone. It's a worldwide issue. Look at that. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
It's a pleasure.
Bye.
Okay, I see there's, are those other hands up? Are they old hands?
No, it's me, Chris, again. Danny.
Okay.
Daniel, yes.
Daniel, okay.
Yes, I'm asking if it's possible to combine outcome 1, 2, and 3 once. I mean, at once, instead of saying outcome 1, you mention what is under outcome 1, outcome 2, and 3. I wanted to combine 1, 2, 3 together. Is it fine?
No. If
Following
you're doing an
the
application for a technologist and technician, it's not correct. For engineer, yes, they do combine them and they give it. Why I say that is because it's difficult for the assessor to read through. So basically, you just give your broadly outcomes there on SANA 1.1, what it was, 1.2, 1.3. What you can do in your guidelines, if you're writing for doing your engineering report, you can make notes on the side on a scrap paper or on another document, and then you start slotting it into where you want it to go. You understand what I'm saying?
No, come again.
Okay. You know what I'm saying is, you might write an essay of the project that you're doing.
Yes.
Then you fill in your TER to say, okay, this is what I've explained. This piece of this portion will fit in 1.1, like defining what is the problem. 1.2 is what information you collected. So you write
Okay.
notes on another paper to get the right idea. You understand?
Oh, okay.
Please do
Okay.
not change the format of your application. It will be sent back to you to say you must fix it up. I've had
Oh.
applicants that do that. It just gets sent back and they have to redo it properly. Okay.
Okay. Still, I still have that same problem when I go through my report. Yeah, and maybe because it's in my head to say this project you did it in 2015, but applying a BTech knowledge now isn't isn't too late to apply the BTech knowledge or theory.
What have you done?
This thing.
You might have, what I've explained to you, you did that project in that time. You were working, for instance, as a technologist. You were already applying knowledge of a technologist, but now you went later to study and you saw, oh, I now understand why I was doing that and I learned that. And that is the knowledge, the BTech knowledge that I used. And you explain that. You're allowed to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. All right. It's a pleasure. Okay. YTR.
Afternoon, Chris. Yashlin speaking. How are you?
I can't complain.
Good.
Yourself.
Quick one. Okay, so just a little bit of clarity. Earlier in your slides, you mentioned things about outcomes being cross-written or something. I just want some clarity on that. What did you mean exactly on that one?
Okay, that's up top there by your TEO. You're talking about that.
Yes. So I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what you do is, yes. Now, when you look at your application form of your engineering engineering report, you'll see there's a cross-referencing of your TEO or TER. Now, that is your period. Like if you say you want to talk about a project that you did, for instance, you built a road, or you designed a water network, let's say a water network, and you did that in your second period. So you use there, you write there too. Then we know what you're discussing is your designing of that water network that you did in period 2 or period 10, whenever. But please do not take period 2 and then period 10 and that. If it's a similar job, rather stick to one project and you go through with that project for outcome 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10. Because if you're using different projects, it's difficult. For instance, you will discuss, Sana, you're using different projects. Now you design a sewerage network for a township in outcome 1. Now outcome 2, you've collected all that information that you want to design the sewerage. Now outcome 2, you discuss the designing of a road. I would not know what information that you collected. You understand where I'm coming from now?
100%. Yes, that clearly clarified a lot for me because
you see,
just a little bit of
yeah,
a little bit of background is that I've worked on a lot of projects because I was at the time in the infrastructure department. So we'd do various projects, and I had a battle choosing the right one for the job or for the report.
Yeah.
And where I was actually what you cleared up earlier, and I think it was obviously an oversight, is the word count on your TER, because in a certain period I may have worked in that infrastructure department for about 100 weeks, and I've done maybe 15 designs in that time. So I tried to put in each one, and it obviously goes over the actual period.
All right. Let me give you a bit of a hint. Okay. I'm going to explain it. I'm going to give you this picture, and everybody will also. Some people know what I'm saying. Your TER is your brag wall, or your TEO is your brag wall. You now, for instance, you're running your own business. and you're doing designing, a client comes to you and he sees there in his boardroom all these certificates and qualifications of everybody there. And he says to you, this is my project, this is my problem, can you do it? So you take all those certificates and then you put it on the table in front of him. Now you're the client and I'm doing that. Will you give the job to me?
Probably not.
Yeah, that you answer the question yourself. But if I tell you, yes, I can do it, and he looks at all the certificates and the qualifications, and I say, yes, I can do it, I concentrate only on that job and that problem. And I'll discuss that to him and say, listen here, this is what we can do, that's what we can do. Would you give the job then to me?
Definitely, yes, definitely.
Think of it that way when you're doing your report, your engineering report. It is not a brag wall. Your TR or TO, that's your brag wall. That's what you've done. And now you're discussing one project that you can do, what you've done, where you say, yes, this is what I've done, and you go through it. If you do it that way, it's easier for yourself to understand what you're saying and what you've done. Because if you've done multiple projects and you want to discuss, you start generalizing and then you start stumbling with the problems of explaining. Then you start running around your mind and you do not settle. But if you've got one project, yes, you can discuss it. But if you would, because your TO, you bragged about what you can do. There you brag. But now when you come to the engineering report, you take one project and you run. Remember, try to keep outcome 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10. One project, one period. The others, you can have different periods. It doesn't influence. Okay.
No, you literally cleared up a lot, because yeah, I did do it a bit different, and I think when my application would have come in the next month, you would have been very confused.
Yes. Then you get called in for a engineering appraisal report interview, and then you wonder, and then you make it and you go to a professional review, and then you start wondering, now what did I do? Why must I do it? So rather stick to the simple basic rule of doing one project for outcome 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10, and you'll be fine. I see Ronnie's there, he wants to give an answer. Ron?
Yes, yeah, no, I need to leave. So I want to give my 10 cents also here. So I'm also a assessor, reviewer, and moderator for ECSA. I've done a lot of them. So I'm going to tell you now what irks me a little bit every time when I do an assessment. So first things you need to know is that when your application goes to ECSA, they will give it to 4 assessors. And the only thing they have is your application. They don't know you. They just know everything about you that you have written down. So now the first thing you see always is you go to the engineering report and now somebody is saying, I designed the bridge. And there's where it stops. Remember that in that engineering report, you make statements, and those statements, there must be proof attached. So if you say, I designed a bridge, I want to see calculations, equations, what method did you use, whatever, but you don't write this in your engineering report, because like the gentleman just now stated, you have a certain word count that you have to adhere to. So there's this thing they call annexures, and Chris can vouch it also, especially the last year. Annexures is something we don't see anymore. About 80% of the applications has no annexures, and the applicants make a hell of a lot of statements, but there's no proof attached. So you can say in your engineering report, I use this equation, you write it down, or Manning's equation, or I calculated the flow like that, but just a few sentences. But then you refer to the annexures, and there we want to see hand calculations. The applicants who actually attach annexures give us 20 pages of computer generated calculations. Doesn't say anything to us. Computer is very smart. We all know that. So we want to see hand calculations or some or another way that proves to us that you actually did this design and calculated loads and spans and I don't know, whatever you were calculating for your engineering report. So remember that anything you state must have proof attached. A simple one also, for example, Chris mentioned that if you look at outcome number 4, how do you organize your daily workload? And then applicants say, I have a schedule, and they leave it like that. And nobody knows what schedule, what tool did you use? For example, what software did you use to do a project, timesheet or something like that? So always think in those terms that whatever you say, attach somewhere or another, some or another proof. Second thing, remember this is your report. So when you start with we, especially also if you go to an interview, you'd never start with we. We are interested in I, so in you. So in other words, you state that whole engineering report is in first person. So you say, I designed, I instructed, and remember, these are the types of sentences we are looking for. We need to know that you are performing on what we call level, performance level E. That means basically you are the big chief. You're just not signing off for the simple reason you're not registered yet. Never say that you signed off drawings or reports, or actually drawings and designs, because you're not registered yet. You will instantly be excused from your interview or wherever you are at that stage, because you're not allowed to do that. But what we want to see is you referred it to your supervisor and you sat down with your supervisor and both of you decided that the following design is going to be implemented. So that shows us also what we call you are involved with the final decision-making process. Don't say in your report, I gave my design to the supervisor went to the client and the supervisor talked about it and they approved it or something like that. You want to be involved with that final decision-making process. So that shows to us that you are working on a very high level, basically ARE or ERE level. That's what we want to see. So remember, your report must be written in the first person I. You must attach proof, calculations, equations, what type of method did you use, as much as possible, especially in the annexures, because like the gentleman said, there is a word count that has to be adhered to in your engineering report. So I hope that helps a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Ron?
Yes.
Yes. How are you?
I cannot complain. Hot.
Oh, okay. Yes. Concerning this, the annexure, is it allowed, or do I have to show the details like the steel, the reinforcement, and all that?
Everything you want, everything you think the assessors need as proof of your competence, you can attach there. Chris, is there a limit on annexures?
Yes, there's a limit of 50 pages, if I'm not mistaken. But another thing with the annexures, what they must do is they give examples. You don't have to give the full calculation that we just see. Yes, you've done the calculation, you understand, you can show design, but please don't give us 120 pages. I've had guys that send us 120 pages as an annexure just on calculations. I haven't got the time. We are, all of us that are at ECSA, we do this voluntary. We do not get, paid per hour or anything like that. We get a stipends to cover a bit of our costs, but it is, if we do our assessing, it usually takes us 2 hours to do each assessment. So we do it after hours. Even when we're doing moderation, it's not just rubber stamping. If you're doing moderation of experience in appraisal interview or just the experience appraisal, that is also 2 hours. because you're going through everything. You've got 4 people's documents that you're reading, plus the applicant's documents. When you're interviewing, you read through everything. It takes you an hour to an hour and a half per applicant. You make your notes, and then you prepare for the interview for the next day. So guys, remember, learn to write in bullet form, write correctly, and to make sure that everything is there. That is the information required. If you're not sure about what is happening there, do not worry. Give it to your enemy. They will go through your report and they will be very brutal. Do not give it to your friend, because they will be too scared to do that, to go through and be honest. Even your wife, your girlfriend, give them to read it and see if they understand what you've said there. Remember, spend time on your report. Don't be shy. It's not a race to be done. This is your future that you're doing, your career you're doing. So do it as thoroughly as possible. Okay.
Yes, Chris, on that one, because as I said before, I'm reporting on the culvert bridge, portal culvert. Yes, for temporary bridge. So do I have to detail by writing sketches and all that, reinforcement inside the base, and on top
what
of
you
the
can
base?
do is you can do an example of a calculation for the base. You've discussed what information required and what was your calculations that you've done. Like you've told us you did the limited state design, or you did another design, you know, the frame design, whatever you design, you tell us what you designed, what you were using. You can state it, but be careful. If you make a statement, you use this formula, we will ask you about it to discuss in the interview. And do not use the statement, hey, but I've done it so long ago. Then we know it's not your work, because I've done work that I've done 30, 40 years ago. I can still explain it. Johan is a bit older than me. He can still explain it. Ron is the same. So
Okay.
please, guys, use your own work.
And Chris, one last one.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, you went out now, but I think you're back online. Yes.
Sorry about that. Kicking me out.
Yeah,
Can
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes.
You're muting yourself.
Yes, I don't know what's happening. It keeps kicking me out. About the report, the review, and so can we submit it to you, or because
okay, I understand what you're saying. You're cutting together, but I think you're asking if you can submit documents to us for review.
Because there was an email sent whereby it stated that we can still email or forward our reports for review to iPad.
Yes, that Johan can come in there. Johan, come in. You muted, Johan. Johan, you muted.
Okay, thank you. We don't have people that can do regular work like that. If sometimes we can find somebody that will do it as a favor, but as a rule, we don't have people that review people's applications. After all, it is your work. You should be confident that you are registrable before you submit. And if your referees have done it for you, they've looked at it, then they should be able to give you good advice.
Okay, so concerning the email address we got, that was just, I'm just asking.
Okay, can I just come in there? It is planned for the future, but not now. You know,
Oh.
we're thinking about that, and basically we're looking at that possibility. I know there's other companies or other organizations that do that, and they do it at a fee. We're also thinking of doing that, but it's only in the future, not now. So we just want to see the response if there's any people that will be interested in that.
May I also mention there that's like I said, at this stage, there's not a lot of assessors and moderators and reviewers for ECSA. And I last week got somewhere 13 on one day because of this identification of engineering works fiasco that they've created for themselves. So at this stage, there's no capacity in iPad to do this. And the other thing is, if we do it for you, what happens then? Are you going to keep us liable, you know, if you don't pass the first time, let's say it that way? So it's what they call a tamaleki. But at this stage, definitely there's no capacity. I have to be honest.
Okay.
No, it's just to have a guidance, you know, as we go, you know that you've got guidance, and then your work.
No, that's you. If you are registered on the WhatsApp group, you can always ask questions there. But a whole report is going to be a little bit cumbersome. But you have a mentor, one or two of them. They should be able to do that for you, because that's why they are mentoring you.
Yes.
They have gone through the whole process. They know exactly what is required from the application. So when the mentors say it's okay, it should be okay.
Yeah, it's just that most of them, sometimes they don't have time. You have to wait.
Then you know how we feel when we get 10 of them and we're not mentors.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
That is enough
Okay.
now from you, Mr. Mbata.
Okay.
I would
Thank
like
you.
to ask.
Okay.
I would like to ask Wilhelmina Ntangeni, who's also an ECSA assessor, to please come in and also give some advice on what she has seen as problems, and maybe give us some advice from her side. Wilhelmina, please unmute yourself. Looks like she's still got load shedding there.
Yeah, I'm losing now. I'm just putting my camera off because I'm getting very unstable network now.
Okay, is there any questions in the chat that we haven't answered?
There's one, Ariane, of Cedric Marato.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes, I have over 10 years consulting office experience before national diploma. Stopped working to get both diploma and advanced diploma. Can I apply for registration while I'm still looking for a job? What I can say there is you must have a look at the guideline R02 STA under the PT section if you want to do it for professional technologists. Look what is the guideline there. If I'm not mistaken, you have to have 10 years of experience as a to work as a technologist to be able to apply with no diploma or advanced diploma. Under there's a section called Annexure A or Appendix A, which discuss all the outcomes there. I mean the requirements for registration. What you can do is, I know you got no work, but it's countrywide now at the moment. But advanced diploma You must go and look at the requirements there for that. Okay. Joanna, I see we've got LN and then Tebogo.
Okay.
Okay, I think LN must come in first.
Good evening, and how are you?
All right.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to know, is it possible to get the recording of this meeting? Because I think the information that's been shared here is quite valuable, and I'd like to refer back from time to time.
Okay, you will get it under the website at the back, which I said is just professionalcpd.co.za. There's not www, it's just professionalcpd.co.za. It will be put in about 3 to 4 days time, even a bit longer, because we do a lot of this. But there, the whole presentation will be there on all the questions as what we discussed also now. And there are other presentations also put on there. But remember, you log in. So it means you create a login password, and that is for free. And then you can get that information there. Am I correct, Johan?
Yeah, but all the previous ones are there. So there are more than 30 sessions like this on that session. So you're welcome to listen to all of them for free. Obviously, it will take a lot of time for you, but you can choose which ones, because you can see from the titles what is being discussed.
All right, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Johan. Thank you very much.
Okay. It's a pleasure. Tebogo? Tebogo, you can come in, or is it an old hand?
Oh yes, no. It's the most recent one.
Okay.
Yeah, I see there on your presentation that the form that you're presenting with is for the technologist, but with me here I have the one for the technician. But then, however, I wanted to ask two questions. I don't know about the form that you carry in there. This one that I have here has educational development report, and I was hoping maybe you would also touch on that. And then the second question is here on the TEO. It says somewhere here on, let me just get there, on forms on sheet C2, it says that the period that you're going to put in on the TEO, they've outlined the conditions when they say it changes and when they say the period ends. It says even when you change the employer, it means that your period has changed, or when you change the type of work. So I just wanted to check the with my 10-year experience, I've changed the number of employers, and I've worked on different projects. So I just wanted to check there if can I submit the multiple TEOs as I've worked on different projects.
Yes. What I mean by that, if you're doing, for instance, just be careful. You know, if you're changing work, then you put in a new TEO. Where you're changing a company, a new TEO. And sometimes you work on certain projects that will be, you work on multiple projects on the same period. Choose the project that stands out, that is the most, that is going to cover those. Those others that you do, small projects or could be big projects, you choose the one that stands out, that will be complementary towards your application. Okay. Because on another project you'll be working, for instance, you will only be doing part of the design, or you do the design and you don't do anything further. But in the meantime, you were also doing a project in that same period where you started and where you did the design and you did the implementation of that project. That will be your dominant one. So choose your dominant project.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then on my first question regarding the educational development report.
Okay, that's your alternative route. Am I right? Because you haven't got your required qualification or your benchmark qualification. So then you only fill in that form, as I say, outcome 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Am I right? Then you go to your engineering report, you fill in from 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 11. But 1 to 5, you right there refer to your alternative route application.
Okay.
Does it make sense to you now?
Yeah, I think it does. It means now that I'm not going to fill in the educational development report. I'm only going to end on the engineering report.
Yeah, okay. Because you've got the benchmark qualification, am I correct?
No, I haven't got my benchmark. It's only my diploma and the 10 years of experience.
Okay, so then you use the alternative route from outcome 1 to 5. You fill that form in. Then you go back to your engineering report and you fill in from outcome 6 to 11.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
You understand now?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I understand.
All right. Any other further questions? I think we've come to the end of the presentation, Johan. You can
Thank you,
close
Chris.
down. Is Wilhelmina there or she gone off?
No, I didn't get her, so I'll try and get her to join us in the next one. And,
She is, yeah. She's still, yeah. She's still there. She can come in. Wilhelmina, come give your talk there. I don't know if she can hear us.
no, I don't think so, Chris.
Because she's still, yeah. It still shows there in the group.
In any case, let's close for today.
Okay.
I see Tebogo's hand is still up there. Is he finished or?
It's an old hand. Am I right, Tebogo?
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm finished. It's an old hand.
It's
Sorry,
very tiring to keep the hand up that long, huh?
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all right. That's fine.
In any case, thank you everybody for joining us. This is brought to you by the Institute of Professional Engineering Technologists for your help you with registration, and we hope to have another one in 2 weeks' time or so, whenever we can fit it in. And yeah, if you have specific questions that you want on the WhatsApp groups, please put it there as well. I see there's another hand up now. If it's a short question, we can take it, because we would like to also go and have dinner.
Johan, it's Jason. I requested that maybe in one of our session we include the challenges that I explained or we talked about with regards to say that some of our clients saying that there's no need for the engineers in the project because it's just an ablution or just toilets. Remember that one?
Sorry, I'm not with you now.
Johan, remember we spoke, I think it's last week, regarding the challenges that our consultants or our fellow brothers they come across with regards to the clients, whereby they are not able to pay them because they're saying there was no need for an engineer in the project, but It's
yes,
an
yes.
engineering project. Yeah. So I'm not saying we should discuss in this today, but I remember you said you're gonna incorporate in one of our sessions. It's just a reminder.
Okay, but maybe Chris would like to comment on that. If you would just
Okay,
briefly.
I'll just say quickly there. I just want to ask one or two questions, Jason. Did the client employ you?
Okay. Okay. Basically, what's happening? Remember, I said I'm in public sector. I'm in public work. So
Yes.
there are projects whereby we engage with the consultant. So when they submit their fees, and then their fees get returned and said that okay, there is no need for an engineer in this project. Let's say this water and sanitation projects that we normally conduct in I think in every province. So yeah, when they reject their fees, they say there was no need already. Remember, public works is an implementing agent between the other departments. So already the consultant have done work, and then now they're submitting their fees. And when instead of getting paid, they're responding that there was no need for the engineer in the project.
Okay, now just another question. Was there agreement between the consultant and your department, or was the consultant doing it on a risk?
No. They do have appointment letters, and remember their fees are based on. I'm using the Gazette to check their fees. So basically, there is a level agreement between public works and the consultants.
Okay, so that the consultant can actually go to ECSA and report those people.
Okay.
Because that falls under your code of ethics.
Exactly.
And that will fall under your will fall under section 3 of the code of conduct of a registered person. And although you are a company, but you are entity, and our entity can also be a person.
True.
And the person who signed that document to appoint him can be held liable for that cost.
But to cite an example, there was a project whereby we implemented without any engineer, as given instruction by them as a client, and only to find out there was no geotech done. And then come rainy season, the toilet was flooded with water around, meaning that there was a water ground, but it's just that it was done during dry season. So at the end of the day, the school never utilized those ablutions. And then they came to say,
but whose decision was it in your department?
Okay, we got a sort of an email from the client that in this project, don't do what we call it, geotechs.
Yeah. So the client can be held
liable.
Who wrote that he can be held liable if they are registered at ECSA for incompetency. You understand what I'm saying? That's why they want everybody, because a lot of the companies I know they employ their friends that are not registered, and you've got no recourse. But if the person is registered at ECSA, you have a recourse against them, and you can also lay a complaint. You just go through that process there. Okay.
No, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Johan.
Okay, it's a pleasure. I see Wilhelmina wrote there in she's having load shedding and the network is unstable, Johan.
No, I also saw it, and I tried to post the answer that I wrote for her without success.
Okay, I see Mahubi is Mahubi.
Okay, I'm audible.
Now,
Yes, we
now
can
yes.
hear you now.
Oh, okay, thank God. No, I was trying to, okay, I am very knowledgeable, but I'm still a candidate 16 years later. When I heard about this guy and the trial jobs and such, I'm studying this OHS Act. There's a chapter where they deal with public toilets, and there's a chapter where they deal about facilities. So if the law states that such, okay, I even have the revised 22 edition. If the law states that those things must be there, and then the engineer must be involved. I'm not sure if it's automatic that the OHS Act is related to the ECSA engineer, or maybe it's related to the certified engineer only. So so if public works is saying, and public works is part of government, if public works is saying that we don't need an engineer, there's just a toilet, it's shooting itself on the foot, because there's a document talking about such.
Yes, I know that there is, but the person who gave that recommendation there in the department can be held liable for his decision if they are registered. If they're not registered, we do have a problem. That's why the government wants everybody to be registered, so that they can be held accountable for their decisions they're making.
Yes, it's under facilities regulation, also under, I think it's general safety, if I'm not wrong. So,
yes.
Yeah, I don't think you need to be, okay, my opinion, you don't need to be an ECSA engineer to be held liable for the law. If you broke the law, you broke the law.
Yes and no. You know, you get a nice, clever, what they call it, lawyer or advocate that will circumcise that. So that's why they are now forcing everybody to become registered, so it will be easier to be held liable. Then ECSA has got a stick to hit the engineers or technologists or the technicians for not being professional. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for that
Sure.
information. I think we must wrap up, because I need to go and get food. I stay in a small town and they're going to close all the shops, and I'm going to go have no food. I know I'm fat, but I also need to eat now and then to keep my body weight going. All right, Johan.
Yeah.
I think you must wrap up. Tebogo, we'll take later on the questions. You can put it in the chat groups there, and then we'll discuss that. I don't know if you agree, Johan. I need to get going now.
Well, let's hear what he has to say quickly. I presume he has a short answer to what Mahube said. That was a very good answer from her.
Yes.
Now let's close up, guys. Thank you very much, and hope to see you in 2 weeks' time. I'm going to end the session. Thank you again for joining us, and have a nice evening. Goodbye.